State, the outstanding junior who is 25-0-1 against Kurt Wallman from Iowa State. Smith making it on a decision over Matt Lindland, while Wallman pinned Sean Fry of Missouri, and we'll have a whistle stopping action to begin things with a shoelace getting tied. And Smith apparently just at that same moment, I don't know what happened, it looks like a pinched neck.
First I thought they butted heads, but actually it's his neck. They barely made contact. Smith was just initiating a move about the time that Del Hughes stopped it for the loose shoestring.
Yeah, it's almost like he had a spasm in his neck or something. He had an interesting match this afternoon when he beat Matt Lindland in the second period of that match. He was being choked and the official couldn't see it, and he was pounding onto the mat trying to draw the official's attention. That was kind of unusual. Couldn't really see anything happening there. But this afternoon, when in that semifinal match, he was pounding for the official's attention, trying to get the referee to see that he was being choked. And when they finally broke the hold, he was pretty upset, and a fight just about ensued. So we almost had a boxing match instead of a wrestling match for a moment.
Both these guys happy to be in the finals. Now you say, why would Pat Smith just be happy to be in the finals? He had to wrestle Lindland, who he really does not like his style. He said that Lindland always gives him trouble. He just can't seem to do what he wants with Lindland's style. And Kurt Wallman, getting down to 158 after the season started, happy to be in here. Had a good match this afternoon, did Wallman. A pin over favored Sean Fry of Missouri, who was actually the #2 seed. Wallman almost pinned him in the first period, finally put him away in the second period. So as a sophomore, he's very pleased to be here, even though he's wrestling a two-time NCAA champion.
Wallman is an interesting story in himself, a unique figure in high school wrestling. He is the only wrestler in U.S. history to gain 6 state titles. He won his first state title as a 7th grader and went 201-0 from 7th grade through his high school senior year.
Very precocious, to say the least. As is Pat Smith, obviously.
They both got great bloodlines. Wallman's dad was an All-American at Iowa State. And Smith, of course, coming from the family that just seems to keep turning out great wrestlers. And he has a chance. Of course, he has to win it this year as well, but he has a chance to become the first wrestler in NCAA history to win 4 NCAA titles.
And Pat Smith, having won as a freshman and a sophomore, looking for 3, has a draw on his record this year against Ray Miller of Arizona State, 1-1, a duel out in Tempe late January. Otherwise, hasn't lost in a good while.
And I'm looking for a moment over at his brother John, who's alongside the mat, and John is kind of slumped back in his chair and has a very defeated look on his face at the moment.
This final session really hasn't gone that well for Oklahoma State. Ray Weish didn't expect to win, but he certainly expected T.J. Jaworski to win. And then Alan Freed and Chris Owens both won for the Cowboys, but neither one looked particularly explosive or impressive like I think that John Smith and Kenny Mundy were hoping they would appear. And Pat Smith, who struggled a bit this afternoon, as we said, before finally pulling out a 9-4 decision and having the choke problem. And now Kurt Wallman is really frustrating Pat Smith with some good defensive wrestling. And now Smith, a nice duck under there. He's got Wallman stacked and gets the takedown. Very quick, superb duck under by Pat Smith.
So 2-0 the score with just over 30 seconds remaining in the first period.
30 seconds remaining period. Wallman, crampy roll, followed by Smith.
Wallman tries a power roll, doesn't get free, and Wallman's very sturdy. Obviously, he's a very strong 158-pounder. Smith relies more on his extreme slickness, as they say, his great technique, but is very tough and very tough through the hips, as the coaches like to say. He's got good leverage with the hips.
And there's brother John.
Position. And when John says something, I guess people tend to listen right now, since John Smith is 1990 Sullivan Award winner, first wrestler ever to win the Sullivan Award, and generally considered perhaps the #1 wrestler in the world today, pound for pound.
Has won 5 different world titles, including a gold medal at the Olympics. And his brother Pat, of course, would like to match that record. And we'll head into the second period with a 2-1 lead.
Pat Smith just coasting along, and then suddenly watch this duck under as he will pop under so quickly that Wallman never really had a chance to react.
And he got very close to turning that into a near pin situation.
Start the second period with Wallman underneath. He's loose, and it's a 2-2 tie. Smith still not really opening up like we typically see him do. But to Wallman's credit, Wallman has hung right in there, made it to, there's the famed Smith low single leg, the low heel pick, and he's got the takedown. That's the move that John Smith has perfected and that the Soviets have found impossible to stop, and Pat has been taught that move quite well.
There may be no one in college wrestling that's quicker at that move.
The quick reach, traps right behind the heel, sucks it back toward him, and puts the opponent right on his seat for an easy takedown. A great wrestling family, of course. Leroy Smith, who was national champion here in 1980, now the Team USA freestyle coach. Then John comes along, two-time NCAA champ, an Olympic gold medalist. John will tell you that Pat is farther along in his career at this point than he was. And Pat, two-time NCAA champion already. And Wallman trying very hard to get out, and Pat Smith trying to put a half on. That didn't work. So he just releases Wallman.
Wallman will get loose, and time called momentarily as they get one of the little ID badges that they wear along their ankles off the mat that had come loose off of Wallman's leg.
And just when you thought it was safe to go back onto the mats, there's a fourth Smith chicklet in the nest. Mark Smith, a sophomore in high school, just won the state championship at 148 pounds in the large class, was runner-up as a freshman. Very difficult to do in Oklahoma in the large class to make the state finals as a freshman. And Pat and John claim that Mark is farther along at this point than Pat was, so we'll see.
Well,
that
he's got the benefit of having all the knowledge from his brothers passed along to him, and it can't help but help, although it may be punishment when you're a younger brother in that family.
Pat Smith back in deep, but Wallman sprawls, keeps the hips down. Wallman's got to get some offense going. In fact, sometimes officials, I believe, get mesmerized watching Pat Smith and all the things he does, and they don't realize, after watching him for a while, that suddenly 3 minutes have gone by and the other wrestler has never made an offensive move, realistically.
And Smith
there
does get the takedown with 15 seconds remaining in the period, now leads 6-3.
But Smith will end up forcing the other wrestler to spend most of his time warding off takedown moves. And because there's not much time in between them, you don't see an obvious stalling maneuver by the other wrestler. You see that he snaps the head, tries to get around totally behind and doesn't at first. Wallman wades into him with a counter, but then Smith comes right back out of that and eventually gets around behind for the takedown right there. Posts ahead and gets behind him.
And the second period ends with an escape being awarded to Wallman right there at the end. And it's now 6-4 with Smith on top. And John has a look of disbelief on his face over there.
Now the good thing here for Kurt Wallman is that even though he's been taken down 3 times, he's gotten escapes. And plus he got the escape at the start of the second period. So he's only down 6-4.
And Gibbons was talking to referee Bobby Walton, saying keep an eye for Smith grabbing a hold of the jersey to pull him down, and now Smith gets another takedown.
Great reverse by Smith, and Smith now seems really pumped up and wanting to go.
On a penalty point awarded against Smith for pushing too far on that arm.
That was an illegal hold, that he took the chicken wing there too far back up above the 45-degree angle. When you get the hold, and you can't, his body blocks us from here, you can't really tell, but Dale Hughes said, no, you took it too far, that's illegal hold, that's a penalty point. John Smith says, aw shucks, or something like that.
Obviously didn't agree with the call.
8-5, the reverse made it 8-4, then the penalty point 8-5, and he's going to release Wallman. That'll make it 8-6. So as we said, Smith has dominated the match, but it's only 8-6. So from Wallman's standpoint, you've got to get something going, but on the other hand, you're right there in the match. There's the low single leg again.
Boy, gets right in there once again, and the takedown awarded. It's now 10-6. A minute 25 remaining in the third and final period. And as I watch the stalemate, I also see John Smith and Chris Barnes, one of the assistants, who immediately jumped out of the chair and started giving the body English to the takedown. They were leaning back and forth, trying to get even more control. That's Barnes, who you see just in the background, seated below John Smith.
John Smith feeling a little better now with a 10-6 count. Actually, I got 10-7. It should be the count that says 10-6 on the board. But Smith just released. He just released him. I believe it should be 10-7.
Yeah, the escape should be awarded.
10-7 should be the score.
And Smith now with 1:16 riding time, so he's starting to pull away. He's just had a tough time generating the consistent explosiveness he likes to show. Again, Kurt Wallman just staying in there, not doing anything fancy, avoiding the big points. And as we said, the officials, I feel, from watching Pat Smith so much, that they suddenly don't realize that almost an entire match has gone by and one man has never really initiated an offensive move.
Well, he's very aggressive and just about had a takedown there, but Wallman slips out. But now just 25 seconds remaining in the match.
And a fan behind us tries to alert the officials what we were talking about. Fan says, how long has it been since red has shot? But that is a very easy thing for an official to fall into, as
because there's so much activity still going on.
Smith in on the low single again. Wallman trying to counter, but he can't do it. That'll make it 12-7.
Get the takedown right here in the final 10 seconds in the match.
And with the riding time.
Some riding time. So the final will be 13-7. As Pat Smith wins his third Big 8 championship in 3 tries. And for Oklahoma State, that will be their third title here in the finals. And we'll be back with more wrestling from Stillwater, Oklahoma when we return on Prime Network.